This is the first video of the Introduction to Python tutorial. At this point, you probably already installed RMS Python on your machine. And if you haven't, I'll add the link to the installation tutorial so that you can follow that before you start this series. After you installed RMS Python, you should be able to press Windows key on your Windows machine and type RMS Python. And you should be able to see this RMS Python prompt, which is the one we're going to run. There are many ways of running Python. One of the ways is by starting a Python on your command line and then start writing Python code. For instance, I can print hello world on screen, and this will just show the output of the Python code. But as you may imagine, this is not the most common way of running Python. Usually we are running Python from a Python file, or we are running Python from a more convenient way, which is using Jupyter notebooks. Before we open Jupyter Lab for running some Python code, I want to demonstrate one more way of running Python code using a Python file. The reason I'm doing this is to demonstrate how convenient it is to run Python code from Jupyter Lab, and the reason why we use Jupyter Lab, because it's just very convenient. So in order to run Python code from a Python file, what we're going to do is to open our working folder. In my case, my working folder is on my desktop and it's called RMS videos. What I can do now is to copy the path, do a cd space, paste that path, enter, and then now I use VS Code text editor, which I recommend. If we add a tutorial on that later on, I'll add a link to this video. But for now, just know that for me to open the VS Code on this folder, I just have to type code and dot. So this will open the VS Code on my working folder. Now within VS Code, I can press Ctrl N to create a new file, and I can type some Python code. So let's do print hello world and save that file as a Python file with the py extension. So I can close my VS Code now. And to run that piece of code, what I can do is to do Python and then test.py, and this will run all the Python code on that file, and all that it does is to print on screen the hello world string. So now let's open Jupyter Lab. One way of opening Jupyter Lab on your computer is to open the command window and then navigate to the working folder like we did. And once you are in your working folder, you can just do Jupyter Lab, and this will initialize a Jupyter Lab server on your computer, and a browser window should pop up using your default browser. So in this case, I already have the notebook opened, but you can see on our working folder that we have the Python file and we have the notebook that we are going to be working with throughout the tutorial series. So this is one way of opening the Jupyter Lab. One thing about this way is that you will always need to do RMSP and then open the command line, go to your working folder and copy the path in here and press enter, and then type Jupyter Lab and press enter, and that will initialize the server. So the other way you can do to run Jupyter Lab is to download the desktop version of the Jupyter Lab, which I will provide the link in the comments below. So what you need to do is to download the installer. In my case, I have already downloaded the installer. So this is the installer for the Jupyter Lab. So I just need to double click on this, and this will start the installation process. I can agree, and then the installation is very fast, so we can just wait for it. I can see an option to already run the Jupyter Lab as I finish, but I will unmark this so we can see how to open it. So I press the Windows key and search for Jupyter Lab. I can see that I have that option. There's also a desktop shortcut that was added, but in case you don't have the desktop shortcut, you can just search for it. So let's click on it. I'll close my download folder, and this is how it looks like once you installed it. So what you can do, which is very convenient, is to open the folder, and once you open the folder, you can navigate to your working directory and then just click open, and it will start a Jupyter Lab session on your computer. So this will look exactly the same as in the browser, and as you can see, we have our notebook, we have the Python file that I created on that folder, and I can just open that notebook by double clicking in it. I'll be using the browser version of the Jupyter Lab for the remaining of this tutorial, just because I'm more used to it. But I wanted to show the alternative for those who do not want to be running commands from the command line, so the desktop application is a good option. Now we are ready to start going through the tutorial notebook. This is the Getting Started with Jupyter and Python notebook. This notebook is part of the RMSP documentation. I will add a link to this notebook so that you can download and run it on your own.